Welcome back to the third episode of the Benchwarmers podcast presented by FL Teams. I'm your host, David Markovitz, alongside my co-host, Jackson Heller. And to start off every episode from now on, we are going to be playing Guess That Jersey. So my co-host or I, Jackson Heller, will be wearing a jersey with his screen off, and I'll be having 4 guesses at what jersey he is wearing. Before we start, I am wearing a New Jersey Devils Zach Parise jersey.
Wow, what a player. Okay. Your first hint is it's a hockey jersey.
Okay. So, or
it's a jersey. It looks like a hockey jersey. There we go.
I am going to go in the Pacific Division. I am going to say the Seattle Kraken jersey with the 2023 inaugural season patch.
It is not that. What I think I may like better for you to do is you're going to give me 10 yes or no questions, and at the end, instead, you have 1 guess.
Okay, so here.
So starting now.
Is it in the NHL?
No.
Okay. Is it college hockey?
No.
Is it OHL or Team Canada?
No. That's 2 no's. You asked 2 different questions now. So that's 4. Now you're on your 5th.
Is it a funky design?
I guess you could say that, like, in a way, yes.
Okay. So I don't know the exact name of it, but I'm going to pull up a picture real quick.
I don't think you have it, David. I would ask more questions.
Can I get another hint?
By the way, guys, that was a great episode. All right, David's on his 7th question.
Can I get a hint?
It's not a hockey team.
That was
a hockey jersey.
You already answered that question.
No, I didn't. You never asked me if it's another sport. It's not hockey.
Oh, it's not? Okay. Is it another sport?
It is. That's your 7th question. You have 8. You're 8.
Okay. Does it have a garbage can as the logo?
No, it's not a Houston Astros jersey.
No, I'm being serious. Does it have a real garbage can?
No, you're overthinking it. It's a hockey jersey, but not from the sport. It's another sport hockey jersey. All right, that was your 8th guess.
Is it baseball?
It is. That's your 9th guess.
Is it a New York Yankees baseball hockey jersey?
It is, David. Good job.
Let's see it on that camera. Oh.
There's no guy in the back. I don't know why I turned around like that, but it is. You can see
that's not a jersey. That's just a hoodie.
No, it's a hoodie jersey. That's how they sell it as at Yankee Stadium. And the next section where I have to talk about my hot take from last episode, where I said that the San Jose Sharks will indeed make this Stanley Cup playoffs this coming season. Now, this hot take was based off of David's prediction, where he had the Sharks at 6th in the Pacific and the Kings at 5th and the Kraken at 4th. And the Kings had 90 points, Kraken had 93, with the Sharks having 74. So I think that the Pacific, the Western Conference as a whole, is horrible compared to the East. I think there can easily be 5 playoff teams from the Pacific and 3 from the Central due to the not new, but the playoff format, how they have the teams with the 2 wild card can be from the same division. Stupid. I like 1 to 8. That's besides the point.
What type of seasons do you think Celebrini and Will Smith are going to have if the Sharks?
I was about to say that. Celebrini, if he doesn't get injured, could have as good of a season as Bedard did last year, if not better, averaging around a point a game to 80 points, in my opinion. Will Smith is going to be on the second line, so he could have around 50, 60. I could see him. He's a great player, young talent. But you have to think, Macklin Celebrini has Tyler Toffoli on his line, who's a great player. I watched him when he
30 goals before in this league.
I watched him with Winnipeg and when he was with the Devils. So I think Macklin Celebrini could have around 80 to 82 points, depending if he stays healthy. We saw that with Connor Bedard. He got injured. He would, in my opinion, would have been a point per game player. Connor Bedard is talented. Macklin Celebrini is talented. They're both generational talents. I think Macklin Celebrini is paired up with Tyler Toffoli on the first line, which can help him a lot because Tyler Toffoli is a 30-plus goal scorer. He's a great player. He's an underrated superstar in the NHL. And I think Will Smith, obviously not as good. He's a talented young line. He's talented on the second line, and I think he can have around 50 to 60 points.
Now we are going to go to news of the week in the Breaking the Ice segment. So first off, we're going to start it off with Juuso Parson, who's an RFA, and he re-signed with the Nashville Predators on a one-year deal at the league minimum at $775,000. Obviously known for his between-the-legs goal in overtime, but he could look to play in the bottom six this year, but could also find himself being in Milwaukee in the AHL. Now, a shutdown defenseman for the Seattle Kraken and one of their OG picks from the expansion draft, Adam Larsson. He just signed a 4-year extension at $5.25 million. Obviously, a key guy on their back end, plays a lot of penalty kill minutes and in late in game situations. Obviously, a shutdown guy, a great partner for their number one defenseman in Vince Dunn. As Vince Dunn is the more offensively talented defenseman, Larsson is the more stay-at-home guy. Now going over to our friends up north, across the border, the Toronto Maple Leafs re-signed former second-round pick Nick Robertson to a 1-year, $875,000 deal. Obviously, at the end of the summer, Robertson requested the trade, looking for a change of scenery. But with the new coach in Berube coming in, he could have an opportunity to play in the top six, potentially on John Tavares' line. Staying with the Toronto Maple Leafs, Max Pacioretty, a former Montreal Canadian, Washington Capital, Vegas Knight, and Carolina Hurricane, signs a PTO with the Toronto Maple Leafs, potentially adding to their bottom six and to the scoring depth if he does indeed sign a NHL contract with them. Staying one more time on the Toronto Maple Leafs, Yanni Hakanpää officially signs his deal with the Toronto Maple Leafs. It was reported on July 1st that he was supposed to sign a 2-year deal at $1.4 million plus on his AAV. But after the Leafs medical staff taking a look and him getting second opinions from doctors, it only ends up being a 1-year deal that's officially registered at, I believe, $1.4 million. Now, going down a little south to the New York Islanders, a former mainstay on that fourth line with Cal Clutterbuck, Casey Cizikas, Matt Martin signs a PTO with the Islanders, originally with them for, I believe, 7+ seasons, was part of that grind line that took him to back-to-back Eastern Conference Finals, potentially has a chance to earn another NHL contract and potentially be that fourth-line guy or the extra forward. Going over to the newly formed Utah Hockey Club, they give Kailer Yamamoto a PTO. Someone who played for the Kraken last year, who didn't really get much of an opportunity, was in his home state of Washington, but now could potentially find himself as an extra forward or fourth-line guy for the Utah Hockey Club. Jacob Peltier, a former first-round pick by the Flames back in 2019, re-signs on a 1-year deal at $800,000, and it's a 2-way deal. Calgary, obviously, they have a lot of young players who could potentially get opportunities in the bottom six. So it's not a high investment in Peltier, protecting themselves and giving the player an opportunity to earn his spot and money. Going a little west to Calgary's in province rival to the Edmonton Oilers, they signed Travis Dermott to a PTO. Someone who was with the Utah Hockey Club last season gets a chance to be the Oilers' 6th to 7th defenseman. Now, going to a former Oiler, Sam Gagner, he signs a PTO with the Carolina Hurricanes, someone who really didn't get a lot of opportunity to play in Edmonton last year, but was a vocal voice in the room, a former Oilers first-round pick back in the late 2000s, potentially gets a chance to earn a contract with the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, Jackson's favorite player, I can tell you about him and his PTO.
So we're going to go to the borough next to the Bronx, called Manhattan, little town. You may have heard of it. Big Apple. I don't know. So Adam Dennis Erne signed a PTO with your New York Rangers. I was looking at his stats because
it's actually only your New York Rangers.
My New York Rangers.
Florida Panthers.
Everyone is an Adam Erne fan as of now. Everyone's a New York Rangers fan as of now. So I was looking at stats because I thought it'd be, fun too. Who knows? So his highest production season, going off points, was in the 2020-2021 season. 45 games played, 11 goals, 9 assists. Amazing, like MVP level. But I believe that was the COVID year, so he was probably on pace for 180 points if the whole season played out. Probably would have led the Detroit Red Wings to a Stanley Cup. I know the comment section would love this one. And then, but yeah, I mean, I think it's a good pickup for the Rangers. I think, he's going to be the extra forward if there's an injury. And I just think, I don't know, David, I feel like this is the last step the Rangers needed to win the cup. They needed that McDavid talent, so they got Adam Erne. You know what I mean? Flip-flop. So they got Adam Erne. Like, it's just me, no?
I'm not going to comment on your delusion, but we're going to talk about our last piece of news for News of the Week in the Breaking the Ice segment. Phil Kessel has been reaching out to teams about potentially getting a PTO. Obviously, he is a very big hockey lover. He wants to play. He hasn't played in over 2 years. His last game that he played in was in the playoffs for the Vegas Golden Knights on the way to their cup run in the first round against the Winnipeg Jets.
He didn't play.
But that's all.
Did he?
I mean, he definitely has lost a step.
Obviously, but I think he was good in that series overall.
I mean, he only played 4 games in the playoffs that year.
I watched it. I didn't see him do anything bad. How you have those players that don't produce but do bad on the ice. I think he's one of those players that brings physicality, that brings that energy. Everyone loves him. He's a locker room guy. I think it's.
I think he lost his He's definitely taken a step back in the scoring department. He's obviously lost his dynamic scoring and sniping ability that he had with the Penguins, with the Leafs, with the Bruins. But yeah, that's all for News of the Week.
Quickly, I could see him being a coach. Mark Stahl just became a hockey development coach.
Or not
a development coach.
Yeah, for Hartford and the Rangers.
The Rangers. He could do something like that for a team like Vegas. I could see he's a locker room guy. I could see him being a head coach someday.
And that's all for Breaking the Ice and News of the Week. Now on to our main segment, breakout players this year for each team. But before that, we have to give a quick plug. Make sure to go follow all FL teams accounts on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Make sure to check out the website, flteams.com.
And make sure to check out the new Instagram for Benchwarmers. And we have a TikTok now at Benchwarmers NHL on Instagram and TikTok. The Instagram's gonna have a lot of graphics and some reels on it, but there's gonna be a ton of clips that come out on the TikTok. Funny moments, interesting moments, controversial moments, which we know happen a lot.
Jackson's obviously the brains behind the Instagram and the TikTok. He always puts out great content. Feel free to take a look. But yeah, on to the breakout player for each team. Jackson, why don't you start with the Florida Panthers? Who's your breakout player?
My breakout player, like I know he's been good before. I think I need to see him take a next step is Anton Lundell. He's still young. I think he just re-signed.
He did. I believe it was five. It was either 5 or 6 years at either 5 or 6 million.
Yeah, that type of player, he should be around a second line. I mean, I know their team's really deep. Like they have
especially
their
at
first and second line are really good. So a player like him, it's going to be hard, especially a young player. But I could see him halfway through the season sneaking into that second line, depending on how his productivity is on the third line or second line. I could just see him taking a step up. I think there's going to be a lot of players that are going to have that cup hangover. And I think he's going to be one of those players that's going to step up and take the next step and help them get back in the playoffs. And who knows, maybe they'll have another cup run. Maybe they won't, but I think he's going to be a big part in what they do this season for sure.
Some people are calling him Barkov Jr., but that's not my pick for the Florida Panthers. My pick is newly acquired defenseman Adam Boqvist, a former top 10 pick by the Chicago Blackhawks in, I believe, 2019, has the potential to step in for Brandon Montour, take his place on the second pairing and on the first power play, and potentially really take advantage of the opportunity he's given by the Panthers to succeed in that power play offensive defenseman role, to succeed in just getting them that key pass or that key shot or key breakout pass. But yeah, on to the next team, the Detroit Red Wings. My breakout player for the Detroit Red Wings is Simon Edvinsson. Excuse me. He obviously is going to have the potential to step into a top 4 role with Jeff Petrie, a solid veteran, and potentially take some real steps in his NHL game, some steps to play in key moments, possibly on the second power play unit, but just overall, he's going to have a giant opportunity in that Detroit Red Wings defense core. Jackson, who's your Red Wings player?
I have to agree with you. I also have Simon Edvinsson. So with that being said, I want to move on to the Leafs, which I know we do share one, in Matthew Nyes. So I was just looking at his stats, and I mean, he's good. 80 games played, 15 goals, 20 assists. I think he came from Michigan?
No, University of Minnesota.
Where I get them confused sometimes because they both produce amazing players.
He played online with Utah Hockey Club star Logan Cooley.
Yeah, that's why. Okay, yeah. So he had that big goal in Game 6 in the first round to help force a Game 7, which obviously we know how those goes with the Leafs. And so I see him taking a step up. He has the same name as Matthew. Austin Matthews. I don't know why I even said that because they don't have the same name. But yeah, Matthew Tkachuk and Austin Matthews. Maybe he's a mixture of them. Maybe he like some skill and some dirty plays or big hits. Like I'm not going to say which one's which, but I see him taking a big step forward. The Leafs need it. They need to get out of the first round. They need to go for a run. I mean, you have talent. You have Austin Matthews. You have Mitch Marner. You have Tavares. You have Willie Nylander. You have the guys, and you have Joseph Wall, I think his name is, young goalie. Who proves in the playoffs time and time again that he could be a starting goalie. I think you have everything. You just need to put history aside and just go into the playoffs, which they're going to make the playoffs. They do. They are consistent in making the playoffs. And I think in the playoffs, Matthew Nyes is going to be a great young player that's going to help them. Who knows? Maybe go to the conference final, second round.
I mean, just to add on to your point about Nyes, obviously the Leafs need him to take a step in the right direction if they do want to advance past that first round. They can't just rely on the core 4 of Matthews, Tavares, Marner, and Nylander to score in big games in the playoffs because they have not done that consistently. And they haven't done that
ever. Like they have had so many seasons together to finally do it. They've had team after team that I feel like any other city, you'd be like, this team is in the playoffs and they're winning. It's just them. You could add these 4 core players to any other team and they'd make the cup so many times. That's my opinion. I don't know what it is with the Toronto Maple Leafs. It's a curse, and they have to somehow get past it. It's so frustrating as a supporter of the Leafs because I have so much family from there. It's so frustrating watching them. I can't imagine being a fan and just having to deal with that time and time again. Like, it's just annoying.
Now on to the next team, the Boston Bruins. My pick for their breakout player is Mason Lohrei.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's from Louisiana, not a big hockey state. I believe he is the first NHL player born in Louisiana to play in the NHL, projected to play in the top four, potentially on a pairing with Brandon Carlo, a great defensive defenseman. Lohrei had an opportunity to play with their best defenseman last season in Charlie McAvoy. But obviously, with the addition of Nikita Zadorov, that's likely not going to be happening. But still, with such a great defensive defenseman in Carlo, Lohrei could have a potential breakout season. Jackson, who's yours?
I have the same player for the Bruins and same with the Lightning. So if you want to talk about the Lightning now.
The Lightning don't have Mason Lohrei, though.
I know. It's just everything you added for. He's a good defenseman. He was paired up with I'm blanking on
McAvoy, Charlie
McAvoy, who I could see winning the Norris in the next couple of years. That's a hot take on its own. He's a really good defenseman.
I don't really think that is, but that's for another time. The Lightning. My pick for the Tampa Bay Lightning is AJ Moser, obviously recently acquired from formerly Arizona Coyotes, now Utah Hockey, in the Mikhail Sergachev trade. Obviously not going to be playing as much of minutes, not going to be playing against as hard of matchups as he was on Utah, as he was on their first pair. Now he's potentially going to be on a third pair in a winning culture in Tampa, in a winning city. He's going to be in the environment. He's not going to have as much pressure on his shoulders. So he could potentially have a quiet breakout season, potentially a quiet offensive breakout season. Jackson, anything to add on him?
No, I also had him. The Lightning are going to be an interesting team to watch. They have Jake Ensel. They got rid of Stamkos. I mean, you're going to need a player to step up. Why not be him? And for the Sabres, we both have Jack Quinn. So if you want to get us started off with some stats / information on him.
Yeah. So Jack Quinn, obviously, he missed a significant period of time last year after, I believe, tearing his Achilles during a workout in the offseason and then re-aggravating a prior injury and missing about 6 weeks when he came back. Obviously, projected to play in the top 6, potentially on a Dylan Cousins line or a Tage Thompson line. Potentially could be playing first power play minutes. He just has that it factor about him. It passes the eye test, and you're just waiting for his breakout to happen. Jackson, anything to add?
Nope, not at all. Sabres are a good young team. They have a lot of players that could break out. I think the real question with the Sabres in general, though, is if Tage Thompson can play hockey in general. He really couldn't play hockey last year. Hockey fans know what I mean. He is usually better at producing. He was below his standards, in my opinion. They have Rasmus Dahlin, who's one of the best defensemen in the league. Love him. We both picked Kirby Dach for the Canadiens.
Why don't you give your thoughts on Dach?
Young player, seen him play before. I just think he has good sense of the game, kind of like he knows where to be and when to be. Like, you know that quote when, I don't know if you've ever watched Gretzky documentaries, and he was like, I play to where the puck's gonna be. I feel like his hockey IQ is just good. And yeah.
So thoughts
what's your thoughts on Kirby Dach?
Obviously, he got injured after one game last year. The line with him, Newhook, and Slafkovsky was obviously looking really good, but Slafkovsky's not even going to be playing on his line this year. They got a pure sniper, some calling some calling him the new Finnish Flash, and Patrick Laine to play on his line with him and Newhook. Obviously, all three of them could be poised for a huge breakout season. You could pick any one of them three as your breakout player. But yeah, on to the next team. The Senators, I have Ridley Gregg. Obviously, without Shane Pinto last year, he had to step up in his absence, play third-line center minutes and second-line center when Josh Norris was out. But now he has a reduced role potentially to shelter him from the top-end players, and he could produce significant offensive numbers. Going on to the Metro, Jackson, I know he really is itching to talk about the Rangers and his breakout player.
My breakout player, he had a great season last year. The number one overall pick, Alexis Lafreniere. He had 57 points in 82 games played with 28 goals, 29 assists. People will say that was his breakout year. I tend to disagree, just for the fact that I think he has more in him. Laviolette didn't give him any power play one time. He's going to get it this year. You know that. He's one, that's one thing. Two, they ran lines based off 1A, 1B, basically, you could say. Instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, it was 1A, 1B, 3, and then 4. In my opinion, it's not going to be like that this year. I think this is unbiased. I think that Lafreniere line with Panarin and Trocheck centering, I think was top 3 in the NHL last year. And they're definitely going to be the first line. I think Lafreniere by himself is a great player. He could probably go for 40 goals this year. But yeah, you have Braden Schneider. Why do you think that?
I mean, obviously, Jacob Trouba did not play well at all last year, and we discussed that in the first episode. So you really have to look at what are they going to do because they couldn't buy out or trade Trouba. What are they going to do? What in-house options do they have? Braden Schneider. They just signed him to a 2-year deal at, I believe, around $2 million. Obviously, towards the end of the year, he was playing really well, I believe, on the pair with Keandre Miller. If I'm not wrong, Jackson, am I correct?
He played with Miller for a bit. Yeah, a bit. Okay. And then they switched back because it was horrible.
Okay, so obviously we saw Laviolette trust him more towards the end of the year. So I think that trust will carry over. He'll become more of a shutdown defenseman. He'll chip in offensively here and there, more than Trouba, obviously. But yeah, that's my take on Schneider. Next is the New Jersey Devils. My pick for them is Simone Nemec. Obviously, got a little time playing there last year towards the end of the year when they were trying to make a playoff push, but they couldn't make that push. Now they brought in Brett Pesce to play on that second pair, and Nemec to play on that third pair with potentially a great defenseman in Brendan Dillon. But yeah, Jackson, any thoughts on the Devils? And Simone Nemec?
Yeah, he's a really good young player. I think he'll need to take a step up if they want to make the playoffs. They have a great team. He could definitely, third, second line, be fine there, in my opinion.
And now on to the Philadelphia Flyers. Tyson Foerster is my pick. Obviously, got some opportunities to play on the first line last year with a mix of first line centers and Sean Couturier, Scott Lawton. But yeah, with a more stable number one center this year and not all the switching around, he'll potentially be poised for a breakout year. And potentially, Michkov will be on the first line with him. On to the Carolina Hurricanes, Bradley Nadeau, I believe a former first-round pick for the Canes, potentially taking Jake Gensel's spot in the top 6 after the departure of Gensel. Obviously, the Canes don't play a very offensively oriented game. They're more of a defensive and grind along the boards game and trying to wear you out, but they do have some of that offensive flash. And I feel that Nadeau could potentially take either Teuvo Teravainen's spot or Jake Gensel's spot in the top 6.
He's a really good.
Jesper.
He was really good at Maine, having 46 points in 37 games. he seems like a playmaker. I haven't watched many. I don't really watch Maine a lot, but he seems like a playmaker. He could definitely help the Canes. Like you said before, they are more of like a dump and chase type of team. But yeah, I think he's a great player. On to the Penguins. We both have Rutger McGroarty. I put him because he is a fellow Michigan player, and I love me some yellow and blue. I think he's a great player. We saw him in the World Juniors last year as the captain of U.S., leading the team to a gold medal versus Sweden. He has skill. He's strong on the puck. He can hit, and he's a character, locker room character. But I want to know what you think about him, David, because you are the Penguins fan. So.
Obviously, for the Pittsburgh Penguins, Rutger McGroarty could potentially step into that first line role on opening night, playing on Sidney Crosby's left wing. Obviously, like you said, great leadership qualities, a very physical guy, has a little bit of nastiness in his game, could be a real grinder along the board, something the Penguins definitely need, and someone who could definitely be poised for a great breakout this year on Crosby's left wing. For the New York Islanders, I have center Kyle McLean as my breakout player. Obviously, last year came along, played on the fourth line, played well in the absence of Casey Zizekas. Obviously, his dad is a assistant on the New York Islanders. But yeah, he could potentially play up and down that whole lineup because they really do not. They're very thin on their depth in the Islanders system, in the NHL, just all around. They're a very thin team, and especially depth-wise. For the Washington Capitals, I have Henrik Slapierre. Obviously, we signed a 2-year deal this year, or this offseason, at around $2 million. Could potentially be playing on the first line, the second line, the third line. They're centered. They're centered. Like where all their centers will be slotted is a question mark right now. We won't know. Could be changed up all throughout the season. But LaPierre succeeded on Ovechkin's wing towards the end of the year, and potentially Spencer Carberry and that staff could give him another opportunity. And for the Columbus Blue Jackets, my breakout pick is David Jiricek. Obviously, did not get a lot of time in Columbus last year, being sent up and down between Cleveland and Columbus. But yeah, they bought out and moved on from a few defensemen in Adam Boqvist, Andrew Peeke, and he'll most likely will be playing on the second or third pair. Will get some power play time. Will be sheltered. Won't be on a first line role. So he'll be sheltered from the top competition, but will obviously still be facing some competition. And in that sheltered role, he could potentially have a offensive breakout year. Jackson, any thoughts on the last three?
No, I think you summed it up pretty well. But yeah, that was your Eastern Conference.
So we're going to be going over the Central and Pacific in the next episode. I'm going to be giving my hot take now, and we'll be explaining it next episode. So make sure to tune into next episode to hear my explanation on why the New York Rangers will not make the Stanley Cup playoffs. That's our show. Thank you so much for tuning into episode 3 of the Benchwarmers podcast. I'm your host, David Markovitz, alongside my co-host, Jackson Heller. Be sure to check out the Instagram for the show, at Benchwarmers NHL. And we just made a TikTok. Jackson will be posting daily edits, clips, news, everything along those lines. Make sure to check out. And obviously, make sure to check out flteams.com to get all your Florida sports news, all your articles. Stay up to date with all Florida sports, college, football, hockey, basketball. And obviously, also make sure to follow FL Teams on all social media platforms: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. And that's our show. Thank you so much for watching.